You're listening to the Deep Dive Podcast. If you're enjoying this series, please consider liking and subscribing to stay in the know. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of AI, and specifically, you know how it's poised to change media as we know it. We've got two sources for this deep dive. A research paper from Google DeepMind about their new AI system called Genie 2, and a YouTube video discussing Genie 2 and some other exciting AI developments.
Yeah, it's amazing how AI is becoming increasingly sophisticated, even venturing into creative realms,
No.
like generating videos and interactive worlds.
Right. The Google DeepMind paper focuses on Genie 2, which can create a 3D world that you can actually interact with from just a single image. And it could be a real photo or even something generated by another AI. It's a huge leap from their previous version. What's really cool is that DeepMind believes this technology has the potential to impact all sorts of media, from gaming to movies.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. If you can turn any image into a dynamic, explorable environment, the possibilities for storytelling and entertainment become almost limitless.
Exactly. The DeepMind paper gives some examples that just blew my mind. They showed how Genie 2 could take an image of a robot in a forest and transform it into a playable environment, complete with trees, terrain, and even the ability to move around. They even showed people flying things like paper airplanes and dragons in these generated worlds.
And what's really groundbreaking is that Genie 2 can also simulate real-world physics. The paper showed how it could take a real photograph and realistically animate things like wind blowing through grass or water flowing in a river.
So it's not just about creating these fantasy worlds, it's about creating digital twins of reality too. That's wild.
Exactly. This level of realism opens up a whole new set of applications. Imagine architects using Genie 2 to create virtual walkthroughs of their designs, or filmmakers using it to generate realistic backdrops for their movies. The potential to streamline creative workflows and bring ideas to life more easily is huge.
I can already see the headlines. Say goodbye to expensive film sets. AI is now the director.
Well, maybe not quite yet. While the technology is impressive, it's still early days. The DeepMind paper acknowledges that these generated worlds currently have a limited lifespan. They typically last for 10-20 seconds, with a maximum of a minute.
Right, so there's definitely room for improvement. But the fact that they've gotten this far is still pretty remarkable. The paper also mentioned that Genie 2 can learn from both AI-generated images and real-world photos, which makes it incredibly versatile.
Absolutely. That versatility is crucial. It means Genie 2 can constantly learn and improve, becoming more sophisticated in its ability to generate realistic and engaging environments. And as it continues to develop, we can expect to see its impact grow across various media industries. Imagine video games that are more immersive and interactive, educational experiences that are tailored to individual learning styles, or even personalized advertising that seamlessly integrates with the content you're consuming.
Wow, so this could be way bigger than just video games. It's like Genie 2 is rewriting the rules of how we experience and interact with media.
It's definitely a game changer, no doubt about that. And it raises some interesting questions, too. For example, if AI can create such realistic virtual worlds, what does that mean for our understanding of what's real and what's not?
That's a great point. It's almost like we're stepping into a science fiction movie where the lines between the digital and physical worlds become blurred.
It's a thought-provoking concept. But before we get too philosophical, let's dive into some of the technical aspects of how Genie 2 actually works. Have you ever heard of the term world model?
I've heard it thrown around,
Yeah.
but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what it means.
Well, it's a pretty simple concept, really. A world model, in this context, is basically an AI system that can simulate a virtual environment and predict how things will behave within that environment.
So it's like a video game engine on steroids.
Exactly, you can think of it that way. A video game engine has predefined rules and parameters that dictate how objects move and interact. Genie 2 is similar, but much more advanced. It can learn and adapt based on the images it's given, creating a far more dynamic and realistic simulation.
That makes sense. So Genie 2 essentially builds a virtual world based on the image it sees, and then it can predict what will happen if you try to interact with that world.
That's a great way to put it. And what's really interesting is that DeepMind suggests that Genie 2 could be a valuable tool for training other AI systems.
Oh, how so?
Well, right now, one of the biggest challenges in AI research is training AI agents, which are basically robots controlled by AI to navigate and interact with the real world. This requires exposing them to a wide range of diverse and realistic environments.
And that's where Genie 2 comes in.
Exactly. By generating these virtual worlds, Genie 2 could provide a safe and controlled space for AI agents to learn and develop their skills. It's like a virtual training ground for robots.
That's brilliant. So instead of having to build expensive physical robots and test them in real-world scenarios, researchers could use Genie 2 to create countless virtual environments and train AI agents much more efficiently.
Precisely. It has the potential to significantly accelerate progress in AI research, especially in areas like robotics and autonomous systems.
This is getting really exciting. Our YouTube video source also mentions some challenges with AI, particularly something called hallucinations. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, and it's definitely relevant to Genie 2 and its potential applications. Essentially, hallucinations are instances where AI systems generate outputs that are creative but don't actually make sense in terms of real-world logic or physics.
So like a glitch in the matrix.
You could say that. For example, the YouTube video mentions cases where an AI system might generate a video of a snowboarder suddenly deciding to run the course on foot, or a ghost appearing out of nowhere.
Okay, so that's kind of funny, but also a little creepy. But how does this relate to Genie 2?
Well, if Genie 2 is going to be used to create realistic simulations for training AI agents or for developing immersive media experiences, these hallucinations could be a major problem.
I see what you mean. If the physics in these virtual worlds aren't consistent, it could lead to all sorts of unexpected and potentially dangerous outcomes.
The CEO of NVIDIA, a leading company in AI hardware, recently admitted that we're still years away from solving this hallucination problem.
So despite all the advancements we've been discussing, there's still some significant hurdles to overcome.
Absolutely. AI development is a complex and ongoing process, and while we're making incredible strides, we also need to be mindful of the challenges and limitations.
That's a good reminder. It's easy to get swept up in the hype, but it's important to stay grounded in reality.
Well said. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about some other exciting AI developments mentioned in the YouTube video, particularly those from OpenAI. They seem to be on a roll lately with new releases. They are indeed. They've been teasing what they call like 12 days of releases, basically 12 straight days of dropping new AI tools and advancements. But it seems pretty certain that one of these releases is going to be Sora, their text-to-video model.
I remember that causing quite a stir back in February when they first showed it off. It seemed like everyone was talking about AI-generated videos for a while there.
Yeah, and for good reason. Even though it's been almost a year since those initial demos, the video points out that some of those Sora videos are still considered top tier compared to what other text-to-video models are capable of.
I bet. It's wild to think how quickly things are moving in the AI world. What else is OpenAI planning to release during these 12 days? Any hints in the video?
Well, there's speculation that OpenAI might be ready to unveil the full version of their most advanced model, called O1. Apparently, there was a preview version released earlier, but this full version is rumored to be even more powerful, especially when it comes to things like math and coding.
That's exciting. But if it's that much smarter, why didn't it just outperform the preview version in every category?
That's a great question. The video points out that in some areas, the full O1 actually performs a bit worse than the preview version. It seems that being the smartest doesn't always mean being the best for every single task.
That makes sense. Different tools for different jobs, right? Okay, so we've got Sora and potentially the full version of Zoa 1. What else could they be cooking up?
The YouTube video we're referencing actually brings up the fact that even OpenAI is feeling the pressure to keep up with the rapid pace of advancements in AI. They quote an OpenAI researcher who said, "They're going to have to ship faster than the goalpost moves." And with ChatGPT hitting over 300 million weekly active users, just 3 months after reaching 200 million, it's clear that OpenAI has a massive user base, eagerly awaiting new AI tools.
Oh, those are some impressive numbers. It seems like the public's appetite for AI is only growing. But before we get lost in a sea of speculation, let's come back to those AI hallucinations we talked about earlier. They're relevant to OpenAI's releases too, especially when we're talking about video generation and creating interactive worlds.
Absolutely. The YouTube video really emphasizes how these issues with AI reliability and hallucinations, while often dismissed as just like minor glitches, are actually a much deeper problem than people might realize. They even quote Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, admitting that we're probably still several years away from finding a real solution.
It's interesting because I remember reading an article where Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, said back in 2023 That we wouldn't even be talking about hallucinations in a year and a half to 2 years.
Yes. The video highlights how many experts, including leaders in AI labs, severely underestimated just how tricky these hallucinations would be to fix. That earlier optimism about getting rid of them by 2025 seems pretty unlikely now.
So if hallucinations are such a major obstacle, what's being done to tackle the problem?
Well, the video dives into a recent research paper that suggests that large language models, despite all their impressive capabilities,
Yeah.
haven't truly grasped the concept of physics and the way that humans do. They rely more on a bag of heuristics, as we mentioned before.
Right, so instead of having a deep, consistent understanding of physics, these models are using a collection of simple rules and patterns. That's why you might get an AI-generated car crash. That looks pretty convincing at first glance. But if you look closely, the physics might not make sense.
Exactly. The paper argues that to really improve AI's mathematical and reasoning abilities, and by extension, its ability to handle physics correctly, we might need to fundamentally rethink how these models are trained and designed.
So it's not just a matter of tweaking the algorithms, it's about rethinking the whole approach.
It seems so. And this problem isn't limited to just one specific AI model. It affects both Genie 2 and something like Sora. If you're trying to create a believable video or an interactive world, those physics need to be solid.
That makes perfect sense. If the virtual world doesn't obey the laws of physics, it's going to fall apart pretty quickly, right?
You got it. And the challenge becomes even greater when we consider that these AI models struggle with something called out-of-distribution generalization. This basically means they might be really good at simulating physics in one specific scenario, but they can't apply that knowledge to a slightly different situation.
So they can simulate a ball bouncing on Earth perfectly. But if you throw that same ball on the moon, they're clueless.
That's a simplified way to think about it. But you get the idea. They're heavily reliant on the specific data they were trained on and struggle to generalize that knowledge to new contexts.
That's a pretty significant limitation. Especially we're talking about using AI to create truly realistic and immersive experiences.
Definitely. And it's something that researchers are actively working on. But despite these challenges, it's important to remember that the pace of progress in AI is absolutely incredible. And these advancements have the potential to revolutionize how we interact with media in ways we can only begin to imagine.
So while we wait for those 12 days of releases from OpenAI, let's take a step back and think about the bigger picture. Why should our listeners care about all this?
This goes way beyond just cool tech demos. These advancements in AI, especially in world modeling and video generation, have the potential to transform how we consume and interact with all forms of media.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me some examples.
Imagine video games that are so immersive and responsive to your actions that they feel almost real. Think about educational experiences that adapt to your individual learning style and guide you through complex topics in a way that's engaging and effective.
Cool. Now that you mention it, I could definitely use some AI help with my learning. What else?
We could see movies and TV shows that change and adapt to your preferences in real time. Imagine being able to choose the ending of a movie or dive deeper into specific storylines that interest you.
That would be wild. It's like having your own personal director and screenwriter.
Exactly, and the possibilities go even further. AI could help us create personalized news feeds that filter out the noise and deliver information that's relevant to our interests. We could see AI-generated art and music that's tailored to our individual tastes.
So it's not just about passively consuming media anymore. AI is giving us the power to shape and personalize our media experiences in ways we never thought possible.
That's the exciting part. It's like AI is handing us the tools to become co-creators of the media we consume.
It's mind-blowing to think about all the potential applications, but let's not forget there are still those challenges we need to address.
Right. The limitations we've discussed, especially those pesky hallucinations, and the struggle with true physical understanding, are not trivial. But the good news is that brilliant researchers all over the world are working hard to find solutions.
That's like a race against time, isn't it? To push the boundaries of what's possible, while also ensuring that AI is developed responsibly and ethically.
Exactly. But the progress being made is truly remarkable. And it's only a matter of time before these advancements become so integrated into our lives that we can't imagine living without them.
It's like we're on the cusp of a new era in media, driven by the incredible power of AI. So to wrap things up, we've covered a lot of ground today. We explored the incredible potential of Genie 2 and how it could change the way we create and experience media, from video games and movies to education and even advertising.
Yeah, and we also talked about OpenAI's upcoming 12 days of releases
Mm-hmm.
and the anticipation surrounding new models like
So,
Sora and the full version of O1. And while we marveled at the amazing progress being made, we also took a realistic look at some of the challenges that AI still faces,
yeah.
like those pesky hallucinations and the struggle to fully grasp the complexities of physics. But despite these hurdles, the future of AI is incredibly bright, and its impact on media is only going to grow in the coming years.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure. So
Yeah.
here's a thought-provoking question for you to ponder, and be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. If in the not-too-distant future, we have AI that can perfectly simulate real-world physics
Right.
and eliminate those hallucinations, what kind of interactive experiences do you think would be possible? Let your imagination run wild.
The possibilities are truly endless. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.